So a good principle to always think about when you purchase something is that the more doodads and things that you have on it, the more likely it's actually going to break. So I think this is a really nice way to view why you don't want really technically sophisticated products in your life. And it's always been true to me, and it's something that my dad taught me years and years ago, is that you just want things that are really basic and very functional. And what that is going to do, it sort of prevents you from buying the state-of-the-art, which is going to be very expensive. Technological leadership in a particular area is almost always more expensive. You could do that because people are willing to pay a premium for that technological sophistication, but then on top of it, it encourages you to be sort of minimalistic, right? And thinking about what do you actually need? And for the most part, we don't really need a lot in terms of basic functionality in our life. And if you sort of think about what is basic functionality, it's the things that just make you happy, right? And not really worrying about all the other stuff that you don't have, or that that you think that you actually need. And so for my family, for me and my wife, we end up and my kids, we end up getting probably a place that is far smaller than what somebody else would get, but we sort of want to live in a good life, or live a good life, and think about ways to live with what we actually want. And I think many of the people that are around us do that same sort of thing. I think a lot of my siblings have learned very similarly, in terms of, you just need something that is just good enough for what the job is. You don't need something that is really massive, you don't need a massive house. It's just going to have more things that are going to break in it. You don't need really super fancy cars, although we did buy a Tesla this year, but we save up for that. A lot of things like that. We're looking for things that are just basic, that allow us to get around. And then that's all we really need, is just having something that is just basic and that's functional. And then figuring out, what are things that add value to us. So one of the things that we've done, our house is it's completely like a normal house in the community that we live in. We live in Florida. It's a completely normal house that's very functional. Normal in the sense that that it's not big. It's kind of like an average house in the community that we live in. It's not big in any sort of way, but then we think about ways of making it suit us and the things that we like. And so we just put in a pool, for example. We are always in the water. That's something that we love to do. That's a sport that I love. That's a sport that my kids love. And we're just kind of in the water all the time. That's our thing. And we've always been like that, for years and years and years. It was always giving me an immense amount of pleasure. Growing up was going and swimming in the lake. I never had a pool growing up. That was not a thing in Northern Ontario. But, going to the lake and jumping in the lake, even though it was freezing outside, the ice just comes off the lake, you still go jump in the lake and go for a swim. That was like a thing for me. And so this is something that gives me a lot of pleasure. It gives us something, even we're still jumping in the water and it's freezing cold in our little pool that we actually have. So, looking for the things that add value, I think is very important. It's kind of more on I'm not minimalistic in the sense that I'm not gonna buy a whole bunch of stuff just because, but we also think about what adds value, and what's an important part of what we actually do. We sort of question our decisions a lot and think about how can we wait before we purchase something so that we can make a wise decision, right? So when you're ready to make a purchase decision other than the sort of normal commodity things that you buy every day, like food and sort of basics, then we question whether we actually need that. And I think that's an important part of making wise decisions. Question it, wait for a bit, say, hey, do we actually need this thing? Is this just going to be junk that's going to be thrown out, or it's going to be a hassle to have? And if the answer is yes, it's going to be a hassle to have, we probably won't buy it, right? And I think that's a wise way to make purchasing decisions, is thinking about, do you actually need this? Is this going to add value in your life? And if the answer is often, no, we don't purchase it. Or we think not only just does it add value, is it worth the cost? Is it worth the struggles that you have? The thing's actually going to break. Realistically, how likely is this thing going to break? Is it going to be reliable? All those kind of things. I think all of those are really wise decisions or wise questions to ask before you actually buy something. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.